Hey friends, Dr. G here. I hope this streams well. I wanted to do a quick update on a couple of things. I've got some test kits to talk about. I also want to first apologize for the last video I uploaded. I don't know what's going on. The formatting when I directly stream to YouTube is a little weird, and so it's a very shrunken field of view. Anyway, working on that technical aspect to try to improve the quality of the videos. So, stay tuned for that improvement. But first off, in my last couple of videos, I think I mentioned the immunoglobulin COVID-19 tests that are making their way around the country. And we have a Washington State lab that's made these available, and they arrived today. So I have a first batch. This does require a blood draw, so I am taking names down. I have a list that's growing for the first batch. I think I'll have about 18 kits by the end of next week. So give me a call and get on the list. You can message me on Facebook, though I often might go a few days without checking that. So can consider calling my office at 509-413-1530. And I will probably get your message a little bit quicker. You can also text that number. So let's see, what else? Yeah, so the cost trying to, I don't know, somebody asked me about, is this going to be covered by our government and by your insurance? This lab is streamlining things, and it is a cash, you need to pay cash. I think we're collecting this at the office, then sending this out, so we would collect at time of service. It's about 150, maybe it's a little more than 150 bucks, but somewhere around in there. Your insurance should reimburse you, perhaps. And eventually we may have some update on that front, but obviously right now, if you're an existing patient, we will probably include blood draw all in one rate. But if you're not a patient of mine, of course, there'll be a setup to get you in set up right with me. And just as an FYI, I do not bill insurance for my services directly, but we do provide invoices for you to be able to submit your expenses later. A couple of things that just followed up on the immune system. So I was watching and researching a number of aspects about the immune system as it pertains to the viral concerns we have. And I wanted to clarify something, and that is that there are these two aspects of our immune system. There's the innate and the adaptive. You can look that up if you'd like to get in deep with it, but it's essentially that if we have a healthy immune response going on, we will block right away the effects of infection. So I guess part of this was triggered as topic with me when I was watching some of the discussions on immunity, and how one of the threats of the COVID-19 virus is that it's a new virus, and so nobody has inherent immunity already. And that is true when we talk about the adaptive part of the immune system, and I'll come to that. There is, though, this high percentage of individuals who are asymptomatic. We're starting to hear about that, and I've heard rates as high as 15 to 30% of individuals were exposed and now carry natural immunity to it, but they didn't know they were sick. Now, why does that happen, and why do some people end up getting sick and some people don't? Well, there's a lot of mystery, but there's also a lot that we do know. And this has to do with our, if we think about it, if we look across the world and we look at ourselves in the mirror and know ourselves, we realize that we are all different. Okay, human beings obviously have some species-specific similarities, but some of us, different ages, different genetics, and different expression of our genes depending on our environment. And it's been demonstrated that our health is greatly controlled by our environment. Now, and I'm not talking about the environment we don't have control over. I'm talking about the things that we do. We may not be able to control where we live exactly and our immediate environment circumstances, but the things we do every day between sleep, I'll talk about that more in a second, our mental state and our emotions, and also, of course, the things we put in our mouths. And it's things like our physical activity, the kinds of medicine that we're using. Sometimes if you're not in an emergency situation, you don't need to go to the ER. If you're just going to the over-the-counter drugstore, you're getting, for headaches, for your ailments, popping Tums and antacids. there's a place for a lot of those, but a lot of them inherently weaken the body. So my point, full circle back, is that our innate immune system is very variable depending on our individual situation, but it's very controllable. And just remember that our genes get expressed based on what we do, what we think, and what we feed ourselves with. And so when we eat a nutrient-dense diet, when we get enough sleep, when we deep breathe and meditate or exercise, and we don't sometimes we do things to extremes in this country. I've always thought it was odd that there's kind of this all or nothing attitude, and we're that way with medicine, we're that way with our passions around sports. I've been guilty of that myself when it comes to staying up late studying research or working. I used to train for mountain biking and my bike races it's the get it all done real quick instead of a planned training program, including the rest. And so the point is we're all vulnerable, I think, to extremes, and we need to kind of reel that in every so often. So I just want to emphasize that just because a lot of us never were exposed to the COVID-19 virus, a lot of us are going to have a different immune response. And the more you do to help build that, there's a great video I just watched. I forgot that doctor's name. I'm going to link her video down below, but it was really cool to see her go through a lot of basic dietary things. First thing she said, and I gave her a thumbs up on, was the ketogenic diet. So I'm working with Don and Zalo here in town, and we are putting together we have a program to help support dietary change. It's geared around weight loss, but I want to emphasize, and myself, I actually won't go too much into this because I've said it in a lot of my videos. I have gone, when I went into the ketogenic movement 5-6 years ago, I gained 9 pounds in 3 months. And I remember at first I got on the scale. I've told this story a few times, so bear with me. I like telling it. It was in the late fall. I had started the keto diet, and I was doing some real simple basic training in my basement. I literally would stretch, I spin on the bike, and here I just gained 9 pounds doing a high-fat, low-carb diet. And I was like, well, my experiment of one, this failed because I'm gaining weight. And then it was like, well, wait a second, I've been feeling better, and I was feeling stronger, and then I actually took some measurements, and I was like, I actually have more lean muscle. So that was a long way of saying the ketogenic diet is it's a great modulator, and it's essentially, if you have fat to lose, if you have an imbalance, you're going to lose fat, you're going to maintain and even gain muscle. If you're thin and you're weak and you're frail, it could also help to build lean muscle. So as this doctor's video pointed out, and as I have been saying, there's a lot of excessive blood sugar, plus the... Hey, I hope I'm back. I might be having some internet connectivity issues, so if this is skipping in and out, I apologize. So long story short, sugar bad, fat is good, and it's this balance. Now, high sugar, high fat isn't good either. That's another whole topic, but this is the time to eat well. Don't sit around and eat junk food. I mean, this is kind of common sense. So anyway, that innate immunity is helped by these essential nutrients. What was I going to say? Another one of my videos, I talked about the adaptive side of the immunity a little bit, and this is where the memory cells begin to kick in. And so after you're exposed, and by the way, hopefully in a slow way, the population is developing immunity against COVID, and that is the adaptive immunity. This is what supposedly a vaccine will provide, but this test is going to be able to measure your adaptive immunity. And are you immune or are you not? Have you been exposed or have you not? So again, as I mentioned before, after 3 to 4 weeks, this is the test to do. If you're asymptomatic, if you've been exposed and you just want peace of mind and you want to know, are you carrying immunity? Honestly, if you carry natural immunity to COVID-19, you don't even need to consider a vaccine if and when that even does come out. So highly consider it. Look in your area. If you're not in the Spokane greater area, there's going to be other labs that are offering it. Back on, so hormones. Again, this is a big focus for me, and I think this is one of the things that I just saw. This is a pulmonologist, a physician who's actually working with COVID patients. He was the first one. Actually, it's the second time I'd heard it, but the first time from a physician who's working in the hospital setting with COVID patients. he mentioned estrogen. So we see more impact in men than we do in women, and there's an increasing awareness that this estrogen link is real. I think that it's probably also hormones in general, and these are the sex hormones, these estrogens and testosterone, that improve immunity. So I think it might be, if we were able to measure all these people with COVID-19, we may see a lot of men with testosterone deficiency as well. At least I see it in my practice. And so highly recommend that that is something you investigate and consider. And on hormones, this idea of sleep in the immune system. There's this counterbalance between stress, things like exercise, good, bad stress during the day, and then sleep. Sleep deficiency is one of the biggest things that weakens the immune system, both innate and adaptive immunity. And so if you do have sleep trouble, it's often a hormone regulation problem, this counterbalance between cortisol and melatonin, and those are very easily diagnosed through either saliva, urine, or sometimes blood testing, but it's better to use some different methods for that. So highly recommend that. If you do have sleep issues, especially if you're somebody who has to work nights or swing shift, etc., you should know some strategies to help you counter that a little bit, because there's a number of studies that link the SARS virus, and probably we'll see it with COVID-19 as well, but where there's this dysfunction within the adrenal system, and these are those stress hormones, cortisol, epinephrine, and norepinephrine, and that's a close link. And of course, those dysregulate when you have sleep issues as well. So we want healthy adrenal hormones during the day. We want good levels of melatonin at night. We also know that deficient melatonin levels are associated with some of the worst outcomes of those with COVID-19. I've seen those that data being released. So I'll wrap that up. I'm going to close this video for now, but I am going to make one small soapbox. In some of my videos, I'm bordering on politics, and I'm not going to run for office, but I would encourage those of you who are frustrated with how we're getting this broad-based implementation of this shutdown and quarantining, that you contact your local and state representatives and even your governor's office and ask for them to begin to have some common sense approaches. We live in a more rural part of Washington, and we're getting the politics of Seattle and Olympia that are being implemented on our side of the state, and it really doesn't apply in a lot of ways. And we are now to the point where there's a lot of health harm coming from this broad shutdown. So if you're frustrated by this, it's not that you're thoughtless and that you think, oh, you're going to kill people because you want to leave your home. We need to think about the health of all of us, and we are not putting people in jeopardy to begin to apply a common sense approach to this. So that's my opinion. I've been linking videos that I think are meaningful on Facebook on my channel, and I'll do some of those in my notes below of this video as well. So appreciate you watching. I appreciate those of you who are waving. Thank you very much for tuning in. Maybe it's better to Facebook stream. Having issues with YouTube, but appreciate it. Comments, questions, let me know, and I look forward to seeing some of your smiling faces sometime soon.